Hey folks, today we're going to rebuild my workshop computer with a new motherboard. Uh, my workshop computer has changed platforms a lot over the years, and I've never really been completely satisfied with it. It's had socket 939 systems, it's had socket AM2, AM3 systems. That's what it had last. And it's even had socket 775 systems as its platform. Uh, and what I'd like to do is give it its own platform to use that supports Linux very well. I can use onboard video on and still get decent performance. And, you know, it's a semi-modern motherboard that'll last me quite a while. And this motherboard, as I was browsing on Newegg, seemed to fit the bill both monetarily and hardware-wise as well. This board was just perfect for that. Funny thing is, I've had this motherboard here for a couple days, and I happen to be watching some of Max Arcade's old videos, and I watched the video about his music computer upgrades from a couple years ago, and it happened to use this motherboard. I was like, whoa, no way. So, if it's been stable for him, it'll probably be stable for me. It should make a fine workshop machine. And I got this board for similar reasons that he got this one as well, and I'll explain those as we go on. But anyway, yeah, enough of my rambling. Let's get on with it. This is a Gigabyte H61M S2PV motherboard. It's just a simple micro ATX board. We'll take a look at it here. Now I took it out and I put the components I'm going to use in it just to make things easier. I've noticed that Gigabyte's starting to use these plastic bags with the coating on the inside of the bag instead of just using Mylar bags, because this bag is not Mylar. I kind of wish they would use Mylar bags because those are better. With some SATA cables up here. And of course, here you go, the motherboard CD and the I/O shield. Cool. They're starting to skimp out on these manuals too for some of these boards, because this is a full color manual. This would be a full color manual on some other boards, but this one is just black and white and that's it. So looks like they're saving a little bit of money. But then again, this board's been around for what, 2-3 years now, something like that. So whatever. Alright, here's the board itself. I have the RAM and the CPU installed already. Have some Kingston 1333 memory, the low profile type, installed in there. Some memory I had lying around that I wasn't using. And I have my old Intel Core i3-2105 in this particular system. This was in my main computer until I got that i7-2600. So this will make a fantastic CPU for my workshop machine, because I shouldn't need much more than an i3 to get all the crap done that I need to get done. Alright, here's the motherboard itself. Now, I really like this motherboard for several reasons. Number one, it reminds me a lot of the G41M ES2L board that I've used for so long. It has a similar layout. As you can see, even on the back, it looks very similar. It's almost a PC98 layout. If there was a serial port there or there, it would be PC98, but there's DVI there instead. It still has parallel, and it does have serial in the form of a header down there, so I could get a PCI slot thingy with a serial on it and use it that way. Still has 2 PS2 ports, so it's new and old at the same time, and I really like that. It has 2 PCI slots, just like the G41M ES2L does as well. And that's pretty sweet. It also has 4 SATA ports, you know, the standard fare for a good budget micro ATX board. But it still has the high quality that most of these micro ATX Gigabyte boards do. This is the RAM I have installed already. I put some Kingston 1333 RAM in there. 8 gigs of it? Yeah, I think it's 8 gigs of RAM in there. So that should run pretty well. Probably a lot more than I'll ever need, so it'll last a long time in this system. As far as the CPU, I'm using one that I used to have in my main computer. It's the Core i3-2105. This has Intel HD Graphics 3000, which is why it has 05 on the end of the CPU name there. So the onboard graphics on that chip are awesome. So that should last a while and be supported extremely well under Linux. One of my goals for the system was to do an all Intel build so that Linux supported the chipsets and everything really, really well. Since Intel stuff just famously works very well with Linux. Since I do use Linux sometimes on these systems for recovery and backups and stuff like that, and for using the DD utility. So I wanted a workshop PC that could run Linux extremely well, and this will definitely do that. So there you go. It's a motherboard that reminds me a lot of the G41M ES2L, and that's why I have such affection for a board like this. Plus, it'll do the job extremely well. I really needed those two PCI slots for two reasons. First, this is my SCSI card. I think it's an Ultra SCSI card. It's an Adaptec one. I used this to back up the Power Computing's hard drive. That's a Mac clone that I have. And I needed SCSI to back up the drive, so I need a spot for a SCSI card. And I have this Silicon Image IDE controller I need for backing up older hard drives and stuff like that, and wiping them as well. So this is another good thing to have around, and they're both PCI cards. So I kind of need them. I need the two PCI slots for it. The graphics card slot and the X1 slot probably won't get used for quite a while. So there you have it. Let's go over other hardware that goes into this build. The computer will be going into this same Gigabyte case. This case is awesome. I like this thing. I've swapped a few parts around. By the way, this is a Gigabyte GZ-X5. This case is just beautiful. I love the way it looks. So, yeah. Anyway, I've swapped a few parts around. I've moved parts from my LAN party PC into this case. This Ultra LSP 550 watt power supply I've moved in there because I need more SATA connectors for when I do hard drive diagnostics and recovery, and this has it. So I've put a Antec 350 watt basic power supply in there because that will run everything in here just fine, since it doesn't really use much power. I'm using a video card with no external connector, and you know, even though there's a quad core in there, it shouldn't really stress this thing that much. So there you go. 350 watt in there for now. I might change that if it turns out to stress the system, but that's what I have in there for now. I've also swapped out the DVD drive with my LAN party PC, and I put in its stead an HP LightScribe drive in here because this HP drive drives me crazy. So yeah, I'd rather have a complete piece of crap drive in my LAN party PC so it can go bad later than have a nice one in there right now. And it's IDE anyway, so it will work in this computer. So done swapping of some parts, and yeah, I think it's time to put the board in. One thing I also did was I took the cooler off of my transfer PC. This is a socket 1156 cooler that I'm going to use on this board. It'll work on a socket 1155 board. But anyway, I took this cooler off because it's the 95 watt version of this cooler, which you cannot buy from Tiger Direct anymore. I bought this back when they were still CompUSA. But since I have an i3 on there, and a Pentium dual core on the transfer PC, I'm just going to wait for the other cooler I ordered to come in and put that on the transfer PC and use the bigger cooler on the workshop PC since it has a little bit of a bigger CPU. So we'll do that. And what's nice is it's a screw down backplate design, so none of those push pins to worry about or anything like that. So let's get started and put this build together. Alright, so this is the system so far. Got the power supply up there. Got a cable mess like right here because I'm not done yet. But I figured I'd do an overview of the system. Got that Glacial Tech cooler on it, 95 watt, designed for 95 watt CPUs. Got the SATA cable for the DVD drive in there. I got my IDE card and my SCSI card in there. Got the 8 gigs of RAM in there. And the 2 fans. There you go. Stock fans for this Gigabyte case. Now for hard drives, for the boot drive I'm going to use this. This is a very special hard drive. It's a Western Digital WD-2500 Caviar RAID Edition hard drive from 2005. And the reason this drive is special is because this is the drive that I got in my first ever custom build. Yep. I started out on socket 939 when I started doing custom builds. A friend of mine sort of showed me the ropes, and then I sort of took it from there. And this was the first drive in my custom build from that time in 2005. And this drive I've kept for that long, and it has been running for that long. It's a fantastic hard drive, so I'm just going to keep using it in other builds. So I'm going to use it as the boot drive in this workshop PC. I'm going to have both Windows 7 and Linux on here. There you have it. And I'm also going to put another drive above this for backups. And I haven't decided whether to use this 1 terabyte Caviar Black or this 2 terabyte Toshiba drive. This is the one that I actually had one of these fail at one point because of a bad cache chip. The mechanical part was fine, but the cache chip went bad. Some of you guys might remember that video. So that's why I'm kind of debating. I'd rather use a drive with more space if I'm going to use it for backing stuff up. But at the same time, there's the reliability factor between the two. This drive is from, like, when is this from? 2010, and it's still running strong. This drive is from last year, and it's still going well. But, you know, after that first failure, I had a bad taste in my mouth. But I have a friend that has a ton of these drives, and they seem to be fine. So, I don't know. I'll make a decision, and one of the drives will go in there. Alright, after some delicious sloppy joes, I was able to mull it over and weigh my options. And I'm going to go with the Toshiba 2 terabyte because I need the space for backups. So, you know, customer backups, my own backups. It just seems like a good idea because it gives me some headroom for space as well. I won't have to upgrade the backup drive in that computer for data, or just, I'm going to call it a data drive. I won't have to backup. I won't have to upgrade the data drive for quite a while on that machine, so that should be good. I'll move the 1 terabyte drive into this enclosure here and just use that as an external drive. So, there you have it. Alright, now everything's in place. Good overview here. I have a bunch of cables stuffed under here. Cable management is not a priority in a workshop machine because it doesn't really matter how it looks. It just doesn't. Especially when you look at all these IDE cables just like stuffed in the corner here. I have both of these plugged into the IDE card so I don't lose them. And so I don't have to go digging for them in my mess of cables. Alright, I got the 2 terabyte hard drive up here and the 250 gig one down here. And look at that. That one's old enough to still have a Molex connector on it. It's still crazy to me that this drive is 9 years old. That it was in my first custom build. I'm getting old, man. Holy crap. So, anyway. Yeah. Got all the SATA cables in there. With the DVD drive and the 2 hard drives, I have 1 SATA connector left for you know, dealing with other hard drives. So, of course, when I have 2 hard drives or something, I'm probably going to have to unplug the DVD drive in order to deal with 2 hard drives at the same time, but that's fine. That's no big deal. Alright, there we go. So now I'm going to button this thing up and install Windows 7 on it, then install Linux on it. There she is, all buttoned up. I'll tell you what, I love this case. Ever since I saw it in one of Max Arcade's older videos, I fell in love with the way it looks. Just this black everywhere, and the hard drive light on the top mainly is what I liked the most. You can see why I put the ASUS DVD drive in here, because it matches this black pretty well. Not perfectly, but it matches it better than the Sony OptiArc that was in there before. So, that's what'll stay in here now. Alright, got my trusty compact cherry switch keyboard with the built-in trackball. and my Samsung monitor I repaired a year or two ago. And yeah, let's get this install started. Let's get Windows 7 and Linux on here and mess with it. Alright, it's the next day and I have Windows installed on this thing, so let's take a look at it here. Take a look at the BIOS as well. Yes. I love that light on top. Look at that, 2003. And then Adaptec SCSI 1998. It's kind of wild seeing that on a brand new computer. But hey, whatever works, right? Look at this BIOS. Looks exactly like the BIOS on this motherboard, the 970 UD3. Same type of BIOS and everything. Oh, there you go. Looks like it's a 3.1 gigahertz Core i3. It's running the way it should be. 1333 memory with 8 gigs. One thing I did was I gave the onboard Intel video, I dedicated a gig of video RAM to it. Since there are 8 gigs in this system, I figured why not just give it a whole gig. Make it just give it as much as I can, considering there's no video card in here. Power supply voltages seem fine. They're within tolerance anyway. Here you go. There's the Core i3-2105. I forget what the RAM timings are on this. Oh, they're 99924. Okay. So that's fairly okay RAM. It's good RAM. One thing I also did in this BIOS, because of the type of machine I'm running here, I turned off all of the UEFI crap and just put it all on legacy mode, as you can see down here. All that crap is turned off. There's no UEFI running whatsoever. It's all just going to be in legacy BIOS mode, just to make things a lot less complicated and cumbersome. So I'll be booting so I can boot Windows and Linux without having to mess with it too much, because in a regular BIOS type of setup, everything just works fine. So that works. Yeah, everything is just kind of the way it is. No, I didn't turn that on or off. No, I left pretty much everything the way it was. Nice, so let's boot the computer up. Beep. I just love seeing that 1998 Adaptec logo on a brand new computer. It gets me every time. This hard drive light is on a lot of the time, because this 250 gig drive that I've still had for close to 10 years is just one slow drive. The problem is they used, it has one of those weird adapter things on that converts IDE to SATA interface, so it still runs at IDE speed even though it's on the SATA 1.5 bus. Yeah, it even took a while to get past that part. It's just, that light's practically solid. It's just on, almost. But you know what? This is my workshop machine, so I don't really care if it's fast or not. It just needs to boot and work. And there you go. There's my workshop Windows install. Like my background? I figured capacitors would be appropriate for the workshop. This thing is still just on pretty much constantly. It's not as bad as when I did some updates, though. I can just get to it right away without any issues. Alright, there we go. Core i3-2105. Sorry about this refresh rate thing. On an LCD of all things, it's doing this. 8 gigs of RAM. You can see 1 gig is dedicated to the onboard video. Oh, I need to activate Windows. Crap. Alright. And these are the scores I get in the Windows Experience Index. They're not great, as you can see. For the hard drive, I got a 5.4 because of what I explained earlier. Graphics got a 5.9 to 6.2. CPU got a 7.1 though, which is pretty good. Memory is the fastest thing in the system and it's only at 1333, so go figure that. But like I said, this is a workshop machine. It doesn't need to be a speed demon. It just needs to do its job, be stable, and work. Now I have my usual suite of programs installed on here, but there are a few special ones that I have on here. One of them is a program called Recover, which is a hard drive recovery utility. Let's say a partition is completely screwed on a hard drive. You could use that utility to recover the files off of it. There's another utility I use that does the same thing, and that is another one called Active Undelete. That is a really, really nice program. That absolutely saved my butt when the hard drive in my main computer went bad last year. That totally saved my butt with a lot of those files. So both those programs I definitely recommend, and that's the reason I have Windows on here at all, is for programs like that you can't get on Linux. And now it comes to Linux. I'll be putting Linux Mint on this system for the Linux install. For now it'll be Linux Mint 16, but later this month Linux Mint 17 will be coming out, and once that comes out, that'll probably be the release that stays on here until the next LTS release comes out. So it'll just be left alone for quite a while like that, for another 2 years, or however long the support is. I think it's 2 years. So this is at least the Windows install, so I'm going to get Linux on this machine as well and get it all up and running and everything. So the main web browser on this machine is Opera. Of course, under Linux that's not going to happen. I'm going to have to use Chrome, but you know, whatever works, right? Anyway, let us get to installing Linux. One thing I did do yesterday is I put Ubuntu 14.04 that just came out onto this USB stick and tried it out, just booted up on the computer, and it performed extremely well. It was very fast on this system. It's really amazing how good Linux is on these newer Intel platforms. The performance just blows me away half the time. I mean, it does even on older computers, but when you put it on something as new as this, that's all Intel through and through, which supports Linux the best out of anything else I've ever used, it's just amazing how well it runs. I would have taken a video of it, but there really wasn't much to see. All I did was boot it up, open Firefox and some other programs, and not much else. Really not much to see. What we are going to see is what I'm going to use on this computer, and that is Linux Mint. It won't stay Linux Mint 16 for long because, as I said, Linux Mint 17 is coming out at the end of this month, so I'll upgrade to that, and it'll look pretty much the same as what I'm about to install now. So, you know, I really like Linux Mint because the interface that the Cinnamon desktop environment provides is just really nice. I like it a lot. Plus, I'm really used to the PPAs and stuff that Ubuntu uses, since Ubuntu is sort of the base of it. I mean, my servers run Debian. My Linux desktops tend to run Linux Mint or OpenSUSE, or you know, something that's sort of Debian based usually happens. But even though OpenSUSE is not Debian based, it's a nice flavor of Linux that I've used in the past. Well, this is very odd. It's not detecting the Windows 7 partition. If I go to the customize, it just shows it as free space. That's very odd. Let's reboot the computer to make sure that partition didn't kill itself. But I'm pretty sure it's fine. I mean, I just installed it, so I don't know what happened there. Pull that drive out and then boot the computer back up. I don't know what happened there. That was weird. Yeah, it still boots Windows, so apparently Linux Mint 16 has issues with partitioning. That's very strange. I'll go get a different version of Linux and try it. I have Xubuntu or Xubuntu 14.04 downloaded, so I'll give that a try on this machine and see if it actually detects the partitions correctly, because that shouldn't be happening. Alright, I have Xubuntu loaded up, which is Ubuntu with the XFCE interface instead of the Unity interface like it normally has. So let's see if the installer on 1404 actually detects the Windows partitions properly. Whatever. Let's see if it works. I don't know why it's doing this. No, it's still detecting it as free space. What on earth is going on? Because this usually doesn't ever happen. Alright. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm going to try my last option. I'm going to try Linux Mint 13 on here and see if that detects the drive properly. Well, Linux Mint 13 does not like this computer. Look at that kernel panic there. Yeah. Ain't gonna happen. So I'm gonna put Linux Mint 16 back on a flash drive and see if I can't get it to detect the proper drives by removing the SCSI card and the IDE card I have in there. I think that's confusing it. So I'm gonna see what happens when I do that. I took the SCSI cards out, the SCSI and IDE cards out of the system. Booted up Linux Mint. Guess what? It still doesn't detect the Windows partitions. Well, the Fedora 20 installer actually sees the partitions. That's some progress right there. Well, I booted up Ubuntu 14.04, and I don't like what I see here. That hard drive that I've had for 10 years is starting to get bad sectors, 17 bad ones. These are pre-allocated, these are reallocated sectors, though. These aren't like the sectors that actually stop performance. Alright, current pending sector is 0, so those sectors must have been over time. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal, but that sucks. That means that this drive has had some, means this drive has definitely worn itself out a little bit, and it's not as in primo condition as I thought it was. Well, I tried to open SUSE, and it finally shed some light on the situation, that it said that it couldn't resize the partition because it was an inconsistent file system. Which doesn't make sense because it boots into Windows just fine and works just fine. So I'm running checkdisk to see what's going on. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to just resize the disk in Windows and go from there. See what else I can do. So, yeah, this is a lot more of a pain in the ass than it should be, but that's how these builds go sometimes. Okay, I resized the drive in Windows. Stuck in my OpenSUSE disk again, and it still says that it's still an inconsistent file system, and when I bring up the partitioner, it says that the NTFS drives are Linux native. I'm so done. I don't know what the hell is going on, but Linux is just behaving very strangely. I'm going to try installing Windows on another hard drive, just a fresh install. And then I'm going to see what happens with this again. I'm just going to stick it on this random 120 gig drive here and just use it on there. And, yeah, I'll do a fresh install. I won't activate it or anything. I'm just going to leave it as is and see what happens when I put the Linux disk in and see if it recognizes it the same way. We'll be back. Well, this is looking to be bad news more and more. I did a fresh install of Windows just as a test on this 120 gig drive I have here, and then I put in the Linux disk here, and it detected Windows just fine. So either that install of Windows I have on that 250 gig drive is bad, or the drive is bad itself. What I'm thinking is that the drive itself is probably bad because it's acting completely weird, like it normally wouldn't. So I'm going to try doing a fresh install on the 250 gig drive, and I'll go from there. And I'll do the same test I did with this 120 gig drive to see if there's something wrong with the 250. Well, this hard drive is bad. Remember how earlier in this video I talked about how much I love this drive, and it was the first drive in my custom build, and how it was still going strong after 9 years? Yeah, it figures as I say that, this drive makes a liar out of me. Yeah, prick. So, looks like this will be the first job for the workshop computer. I'll be debanning this drive and probably getting rid of it because it doesn't work properly anymore. It still boots Windows, but it doesn't boot it in a way that's usable. I mean, you can still run Windows on it, but you can't dual boot on it, and I can't figure out why. It just says that the partitions are, or that the Windows partition just ain't right. And I guess it isn't or something. I have no idea what's going on. But this drive is going to go. And either that 120 gig drive down there is going to go in there, or the 500 gig from my LAN party machine's going in there. I'm betting on the 120 gig more than anything else, though. So stay tuned. We'll see. Alright, I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use the 500 gig drive here, since that has 16 megs of cache, and retire Old Faithful, since it's not so faithful anymore. In fact, it's starting to develop dementia, as you saw earlier. So now I'm going to reinstall Windows and install Linux on this 500 gig drive, however long that'll take, and then I'll get back to you when I'm done all that crap, and then I'll just show you Linux booted up like I was originally going to do before all this crap happened. Alright folks, I got Windows 7 installed back on the 500 gig drive in there. Man, what a pain in the ass that was. Well, at least everything's working now. I also have Linux installed on the same drive. I partitioned the 500 gig drive in half so that I have 250 gigs for Windows and 250 gigs for Linux, although the Linux partitions are divided up a little bit. But one thing I have to say is with this 500 gig drive, since it has 16 megs of cache, it has a very noticeable speed improvement over Old Faithful, which is the 250 gig drive that was in there before, which had an IDE adapter basically on the end of it. It was an IDE interface that was just converted to SATA, so the speeds were very bad. But that drive was always reliable until, today, so yeah. Anyway, let's show you the Linux install and how fast Linux boots on this system. Linux runs extremely well, but I figure you guys want to see for yourself. Love that hard drive light. Can't get over that. AdaptTech SCSI. AdaptTech was such a good name. It was just a cool sounding name, is what I mean. Alright, and we have Linux Mint 16 Cinnamon on here right now. Once Mint 17 comes out later this month, I'll upgrade it to that, and it should be good. But 16 will work until whenever 17 comes out. I suspect that'll be at the end of April here, considering it's almost there to begin with. You can see it's booting up now. It's not the fastest boot time in the world, but it's pretty good, So that was an interesting saga with my system. So what I did with that, since this drive, the 500 gig drive in here, came out of the LAN party machine, I have a, oh wow, look at this. That's a nice login screen. Whoops. What I did is I ordered a 500 gig drive off of eBay for about $25, and that's going in the LAN party computer. I'm not going to make a video of that because how boring is just putting a new hard drive in a computer? I mean, really. But that's just to let you guys know what's going on. There you go. The boot up time isn't instant because it's not an SSD, but the performance on this is very good. Like, let me open, let's test that by opening LibreOffice Writer. There you go. Very, very quick, very snappy. Again, not SSD snappy, but it's pretty good. Alright. Firefox. Yeah, very good performance on Linux. I like Linux Mint 16 a lot. I just hope Linux Mint 17 is just as zippy and fast as this is. I've used Linux Mint 16 on an SSD in my ThinkPad, and it runs blazingly fast on there. And it runs reasonably fast and very well on here as well. So, there you have it, folks. That is the workshop PC build. So I'll stick that down in the workshop, and that's that. I'll upgrade this to Mint 17 in the future. And the applications I use on Linux in the workshop are things like Test Disk, Gparted, Scalpel, which is a hard drive carving utility. What was the other one I use? I used to use GNOME Disk Utility as well, but I think they've changed that in recent versions of Linux. So I'll have to play around with that. Oh yeah, I also use the DD command in the terminal to image drives. That's one vital thing I need Linux for. So there you go. So now I have a 500 gig drive in here. I have a 2 terabyte drive as the backup drive for making images and stuff like that, so that I can put them there temporarily before moving them onto another server, or just leaving them on there in general. So that works for me. Anyhow, I'll go put this down in the workshop, and yeah, there you have it. This is what happens when you have a hiccup in a build. You guys witnessed it firsthand. So, but it's all good now, so I'll bring this down to the workshop. Alright, I moved my 19-inch Hans G monitor down here since it has built-in speakers. I've retired this set of Harman Kardon speakers because they just take up way too much space on the workbench, and I'm kind of wanting to get an oscilloscope down here at some point, and I need space for that, so I need to really make space down here. Eventually I'll have everything set up differently. That's why it's a complete mess right now. I mean, look at this. I have crap everywhere. Computers in here. There's the power computing just sitting down there. I have Grateful 42's server still down here. Half the time I forget that's down here. We need to Grateful 42 and I need to deliver that to his house one of these days. Hopefully sometime soon, because I need my workshop back. We'll get around to that at some point, and hopefully when I deliver that, we'll make more videos or something. So yeah, but I got the computer down here at least. Yeah, got the computer down here, and that'll be the workshop machine. It looks great on my bench, so that's pretty cool. Got tons of projects in here still. I got that turntable, that Sansui down there. This Sansui here, which has been here for over a year. I need to get that taken care of. And I have some other projects that I need to take care of. So, there you go. The reason I took the ViewSonic monitor out of my workshop is because this is going to be a loaner monitor for somebody. So, yeah, there you have it. So, that's the workshop PC build done, and now it's in the workshop, although it's a messy workshop. I need to clean this all up and get some repair projects underway, make some videos about it, because I've put that off for long enough. I really need to start doing that. So there you have it, guys. Have a good one, everybody. Ciao.